Okay, so let's go through the remote. Here's the front, the face of the remote, the back of the remote. The top, you'll find a dial. You'll find an antenna. You've got one button here that has a T on it, and then you have two buttons on the side, a black and a red. In general, make note of this little red dot here, and you have two buttons on the back. So on the front, you'll have this display screen and an indicator light. So to be able to turn the remote on and off, we're gonna hold the on-off button down for 3 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, now your display should be on, right? So on the display, you'll see a 0 for the intensity, right? So it goes up to 100. Personally, never needed to use 100 on any dog, not for pets. Anyway, so you have a flashing 1D, which means one dog. This is all you need to worry about specifically. You can fix these remotes to have multiple dogs on them. For our cases, we only need to worry about one dog, so that's what the 1D is for. So the C on the other side here, so you have your momentary and continuous button, which I will get into in just a little bit when we show you how to cut the collar on. So there are a couple of ways I like to make sure. Remember to do this before you put it on the dog. So on your collar, you have an indicator light as well. You have a charging port here. And then you have your contact points. So in order to cut, you have your remote on. In order to cut the collar itself on, you're gonna match up these two red dots to each other. There's a magnet that will cut the collar on, and when it's on, again, green is ready to go. It'll flash red. And if you put these back together, if I can do it on the camera, red is off, right? So you wanna make sure it's green for it is being turned on. So now your collar's on, and I wanted to go through the functions, right? So this momentary and continuous button, what does that mean exactly? So right now on the front, you can see C, which means continuous. So when you have your remote on continuous, and I will show you so you can see the light, I'm gonna turn it to 10 just to make it easy. So your top button here is going to give a stimulation to the collar at a 10. And you can see the indicator light of when that's happening. So 10, and no matter how long I hold it down, it's continuous, right? The red button is programmed, and I like to keep it this way personally. Its program is 5 over. You can change that if need be, but for our purposes, I would stick with 5 over. So if your dog's working level, let's say, is a 10, and you go, you ask for a command and they ignore that, you can use the boost here, which is only 5 over, which is very small, but it is a correction, right? So it'd be 15. So 5 over, you're working 10, boost to 5 over on the red button, so it's 15. Now, if you wanted to change this momentary and continuous to a little bit different setup, then I'm gonna click that. So now we're at momentary and continuous. So you'll see here, I'm going to do the same as I did earlier, hold this button down. So no matter how long I hold that button down, it's only a momentary nick. So you can see I'm holding, and it doesn't continuously stim the dog. The red button, however, can be used as the continuous stim. So you have momentary nick, and then you have continuous. But I don't personally love this function because there's no boost. For me, with the continuous is what my preference is, using that function, because I can gauge whether I want to use nick or continuous. I don't need to switch buttons back and forth, and I really prefer to utilize the boost button. So I'll go one more step here and click this momentary and continuous button one more time. And now we're on momentary, right? So momentary again is both of these buttons are momentary nicks, no matter how long I hold them down. So both of these are the same. There is the momentary nick and the boost, just like there was with the continuous. I just personally prefer to have the option to use continuous if needed. So I personally coach my clients to use the continuous option, so we're going to go back to that. So now you see we're on continuous again. I wouldn't worry about needing to change that or update it. If you have any questions, there's a manual in your box that everything comes in, but in general, I would keep it on continuous. There's also this T button as well, and you can set this up to be tone or vibrate. I have this particular collar on vibrate. I don't know if you can hear that. There you go. Some dogs vibrate is really too intense for the dog, and some it's not. You can switch this button to be tone if you would like. It's really good for classical conditioning. You know, if the dog hears, you can set this up so if the dog hears the tone, they know a reward's coming, right? I like to use vibrate if I need to with certain dogs. I don't use this button a lot in general though, just the heads up. So for you and your dog, we're probably primarily going to be using these two buttons, unless I tell you otherwise. So as you can see the dial here, so you can start on 0, and if you move the dial to the right, it will go up in intensity, which I'll show you how to fit on the dog and then how to find the dog's working level in just a minute. But to go in further on the functions of this remote and collar, the other really cool thing about this, especially at night, is this collar has a light mode, which is really fun. So go back to the indicator here. If you hold down this on-off button, it cuts the remote on and off. However, if you tap it once, you get flashing light. It's really bright. And you can definitely see this at night with your dog. If you tap it again, it's a continual light on the collar. And that third tap is cutting the light off. So another cool function that I use quite a bit, especially with the time change in winter where it's dark at 5 o'clock. It's hard to see some of my darker dogs. So